In this lesson, I want to teach you how to enter expenses in QuickBooks Online. Now, if we click the plus new button under vendors, we actually have three different ways to record money out transactions. We have a form called expense, a form for checks, and a form for bills. So I want to quickly break out when I would use each one before we dive into expenses. So the bill option is what I would use if you have received a bill or an invoice from a vendor that's going to be paid in the future. I also like to use a bill if we've actually received a legitimate bill with a unique bill number, with a unique due date, things like that. So I wouldn't use this for, say, a recurring credit card charge. I would use it if I'm actually getting bills, like, say, in the mail, or even if they're emailed from a vendor. Now, check, I use the check option when I've actually written a check. Go figure, right? But I like to use the check option just specifically so I can put the check number on it. Makes it easier to reconcile and know that we have all our information correct. Now, if it's not a bill and it's not a check, but it's money out, then the correct option is the expense transaction. So when you click on expense, this form looks like most other forms in QuickBooks Online. You're going to pick, in this case, your payee now instead of a customer, it's the vendor. You're going to choose your payment account. So I'm going to pretend that I am, let's see, I'm recording an expense paid for Bob's Burger Joint on the MasterCard. Now, in practice, I typically wouldn't do this because I'm going to have my MasterCard connected to the bank feeds in QuickBooks Online, and it's going to feed in. But maybe something happened, QuickBooks glitched, and this expense that came through on the credit card didn't come through the bank feed, so I need to enter it. All right, so the category for me is going to be meals and entertainment. I've already put in the amount of $15.45. You might be wondering, well, how did those numbers get in there? In this sample file, the setting is defaulting to filling in transactions from the information from the last time I used Bob's Burger Joint. So it auto-filled the category and it auto-filled the amount. You will want to be very wary of using that feature. I personally like to turn it off because if you're not paying attention, it makes it really easy to put the wrong information in a transaction. I also want to point out, we have category details and we have item details. So category details lets you choose an account from your chart of accounts to record the transaction to. Item details lets you choose a product or service. So if I am purchasing something from a vendor, for example, if I'm purchasing a rock fountain, rather than trying to code it to the correct category, it might make sense just to use the product or service instead, especially if you have inventory items that you're tracking, you'd want to make sure to do item details. All right, so I'm just going to hit save here, and we've now entered in this expense. I want to point out some other cool features. If you see this little clock arrow thing, if you click on it, you can see your recent expenses that have been entered. So if at any point you need to jump in and click on one, you can do that to go back to it, or you can click View More, and that's going to take you here to your list of expense transactions. Now, this here is just the same as going to your magnifying glass, go to transaction search, and then choosing transaction type, expense. So see how that's the same filter? So it was just a quick way to get to this already filtered area. We have other options though. If we go to expenses and then click on expenses, we also can filter transactions here. So here I have this filtered by Bob's Burger Joint already, but I'm going to clear all these filters. And let's just do a different, let's hit reset. All right, so let's filter for squeaky clean car wash. I am going to pick my payee here, squeaky clean. I'm going to change this so that way I'm capturing more transactions, hopefully. All right, so we can see that we have, two credit card expenses, a check expense, and a cash expense for squeaky clean car wash. You can view or edit these transactions. For the check, you can copy, delete, or void the transaction. Typically, when you are able to click multiple transactions, the menu option to batch edit will come up. That's not coming up here for this option, so let me go ahead and try something different. So typically, again, when I come to expenses, I'm trying to reset this filter. Typically, it gives you the batch option, so I'm not entirely sure why it's not showing us anything that we can do when we click on this here. All right, so I also want to point out, again, whenever you see this little triangle, you can sort. So we can sort by date, by type, by number, by payee, by category, by total, and then we have our action column here to view or edit transactions, or if there's a down arrow, you have even more options. The cog icon here means that we can include additional fields if we'd like to. So for example, I included memo here. This is interesting too. So you have the option here, even though we're in the expenses tab, to still pay bills or print checks. And so again, it is supposed to be the expenses tab, but it's not just showing expense forms. If we want to change that, we can click the drop down arrow and just click expense. And now we're only seeing our expense forms. Okay, so now that I'm only seeing expenses, when I click that 17 transactions, it let me pull up my batch option. So I don't want to batch everything. I'm going to sort by payee here. And let's see, someone who has multiple transactions. Okay, Hicks Hardware. Let's pretend, just for example, that all Hicks Hardware transactions are actually supposed to be, a different category. If I click on categorize, I can change them right here. Let's say it's supposed to be job materials. And again, this is just an example. It's a way to batch modify transactions. I can hit apply, and it's going to change all of those transactions, see here, in one single go. Now, we have an accountant toolbox. We have ways to do this anyway, but if for some reason you don't have accountant access to a client file, like the sample company here, everything you're seeing on the screen is from a customer perspective. So if we don't have our reclassify tool, just know there are some batch editing options from within this expenses menu to make any changes that you need to make. So again, just a real quick recap. To get to our expenses, we can do plus new, click expense. In that expense form, we're going to enter in whoever our payee is. We're going to choose a category or item, and then you can save and close that transaction once you're done. If you want to see all of your expense transactions, just go to expenses here, and you have a full list of all the expense transactions that you've posted in QuickBooks Online.